It's Ryan.
It's Crystal.
And this is
Razz Reviews.
Today, Crystal and I went to go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And we really don't have a whole lot to say, mostly just positive because the film felt overall really well done.
Very well done.
There was not a whole lot of negatives into it. So
it was mwah.
it was pretty dang good. I mean, so before we get right into it with all that, spoiler alert. So yeah, click away if you have not seen the movie yet and don't want to be spoiled. So yeah. I had plenty of flubs, so you should have plenty of time to click out. So with that, so were there any negatives overall? To me, no. Crystal, we kind of talked about it in the car.
I didn't see too many, but in regards to some things that after we had discussed it, I realized we kind of dubbed it as glitching.
Yes.
In a sense, where some of the characters looked like they were glitching out because they didn't belong in the universe and they were, you know, they didn't fit.
So in the story of the movie, we have Kingpin using something called a super collider, which is which is like kind of dimension hopping, as I kind of like to put it. And because of this machine and the Peter Parker of what I'm going to be dubbing for this review, the Miles Morales universe, that Peter got in contact with the super collider's beams and caused some of the other spider people to come to that dimension. And those spider people can't stay in that dimension because that dimension is somehow killing them because they know they don't belong in that dimension and it's killing their cells, so they're dying. But yeah, the thing that felt inconsistent was, so at some parts in the movie, they would be shown glitching out and all that, and then other times it just seems like they weren't. It just seemed like it was mostly plot convenient. Honestly, I feel like if this is any nitpicking about the movie, it's not a very strong argument to say that the film had one bad part in it. It's really not a very strong argument. So that's why I say it's not a big... I didn't feel like it hurt the film.
It didn't really hurt the film. And one of the things that I noticed that mostly we see two characters mostly interacting with each other was kind of an older version of Peter Parker who glitched out more than some of the other characters.
Yeah, and you had a little theory on that. So again, like I said, spoilers earlier, the Peter Parker in the Miles Morales universe, which I'm dubbing it again, just a reminder, that Peter Parker is killed by Kingpin, so they're going basically like off the Ultimate Universe a little bit. They're going a lot with that origin of Miles Morales. Yeah. And so that Peter Parker was 26. He said that he's been Spider-Man for the last 10 years. And then, so the Spider-Man that we're mostly stick with, the Peter Parker one, that was, he said he'd been doing it longer, basically. Yes. I can't remember the exact number.
He was a bit older than the Peter Parker that we were introduced to.
At the very beginning.
At the very beginning. And things weren't the same as the Peter Parker we knew.
Well, like, yeah, because it's a different universe.
Well, yes. And my theory was that he was kind of glitching out a bit more than the others because of the fact that he was pretty much like the blonde Peter Parker, except some different aspects. So I felt like because he specifically, you know, they were specifically saying that it might affect him a bit more since the original Peter Parker was killed and, you know, in the Miles Morales universe. And the other Peter Parker didn't belong.
And, I mean, it's an interesting... It's just a theory.
It is. It's just a theory.
It's just a theory. But, I mean, it makes the most sense because the other Spider people that we've gotten were Spider-Man Noir, which is the in the 1930s version. You know, the whole noir stuff that was going back then. I believe he was called Benjamin. No, that was his uncle.
That was his uncle, Uncle Benjamin.
But he's also a Peter Parker, but he's in a different... He's not as similar to the Peter Parker as the main universe that we're in, which I'm dubbing the Miles Morales universe. And I'm sorry for saying that too many times. But yeah, that's like really the only thing that hurt it was that, if at all. But it felt pretty flawless. There's so many good things with this. So let's get right into the positives of this film. What did you love about this?
Oh my goodness. I loved how they opened up the movie, for one.
Mm-hmm.
Very colorful, very, kind of showed the different aspects.
Where are you going with this?
Well, like the different universes, it was like...
You mean the glitchy. It was doing its own little glitchy thing of different universes.
Yeah.
Thing.
And I enjoyed that after Miles had been bitten, he was trying to figure things out, and then suddenly you would see like pop-up boxes, like if it was in a comic book, which was very entertaining because it was like breaking the fourth wall.
A little bit. It's okay, so that's the thing that I really love about it, the animation style, and it's really hitting hard that, hey, this is a comic book. It feels like a comic book movie. They are like really nodding to the comic books, and so I normally put the tweets up that we read at the end, but there's one specific tweet I am going to put up right now because I feel like this hits the film really well. This is by Brooklyn Batman. We were having a bit of a discussion because I told him, hey, I'm going to go see this movie. I saw that he had seen it, and I asked him what he thought of it, and he told me this. He told me, if you like Spider-Man, you'll love this. It's basically a love letter to Spider-Man's history and mythology, and that the animation style, what they were going with, I completely agree with Brooklyn Batman on it because it did feel like a huge love letter to whole Spider-Man. Because they had that Spider-Man, basically, there are comic books within this universe, and Miles is going through basically the same stuff in Amazing Fantasy with Spider-Man in it. The very first Spider-Man issue. Which
was really interesting.
Oh, really entertaining, really interesting. I try to avoid as many trailers for this particular movie. I wanted to try to go in this one as blind as I could. Unfortunately, I've seen some of the trailers before because they played it before certain other movies. But I knew for a fact that Miles was basically going to be the main focus of this movie, and I am so glad that that was. Because I'm pretty sure, I haven't read it yet, I need to, but the Spider-Man Spider-Verse comic book storyline still focuses on the main Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they went in the direction of having Miles Morales at the center of it. And because I think Miles Morales is a wonderful character, and there's a lot of diversity in him, and with his specific character, you see a little more of the community that he's in. And I have to thank my friend at work because if it weren't for him, I would be not very familiar with Miles Morales or Spider-Gwen for that matter when we saw her.
Yes.
So, but yeah, the animation is really good. It feels like a comic book thing. Yeah. When I first saw the trailer, I was like, I wasn't really sure about the animation style, but then I saw that they're going for the heavy comic book thing because I kind of got that sense. But when you see it, it's like, oh yeah, they're going for it, and I love it.
It was very good. I also like the little tidbits where they just kind of like skimmed through the origin stories. They didn't go heavily in.
Yeah, they didn't go really heavily because we know Spider-Man's origins. Heck, they even skimmed past some of the whole Ben Parker dying because everybody's getting tired. It was tired. Like, do we really need to see Uncle Ben die again? And great power equals great responsibility. It's like, don't say that. Don't finish that line. But yeah, there was so many good things about the movie, and I really loved Miles in this. I thought they really hit him, nailed his character. From what I've read, thanks to my friend for lending those comics.
Yes. I want to add something in. I'm not sure if it's really would be considered negative, but in regards to Kingpin.
The Kingpin, okay.
The Kingpin.
Who is pretty much our main villain.
Pretty much the main villain. I wasn't kind of sure in regards to him going against Spider-Man because I know he created it so he could pull a different.
Yeah. So in this universe, during one of his battles with Peter Parker's Spider-Man, his wife Vanessa and his son Richard
see
that he's fighting Spider-Man, and they are horrified, and they try to escape, and then they die in a car crash. So Kingpin is basically trying to use this to pull a different version of Vanessa and Richard to his universe, so he doesn't, because he misses his family.
Yes.
Which is a very simple villain storyline, but it's still understandable.
Well, yeah.
If you know there's other universes, wouldn't you want, and you lost somebody you love, wouldn't you just like to pull somebody that, wouldn't you? If I had lost you, and I knew there was another version of you that, maybe you were still married to me, I would want to pull you if I was unstable and I didn't realize, that's actually a really bad idea and you're not my crystal.
Yeah, but then again, he wouldn't know if he would get the correct ones because each universe can be different.
Yes, very different.
So.
But anyway, keep going with what you were...
It felt like, now, everyone might not agree with me. I felt like it was kind of, it got the ball rolling, per se, in what he was doing. I just felt like it wasn't necessary.
What? What wasn't necessary?
Just building it and not, I thought he would do something like bring all the villains, into one universe and have, a league of villains and then destroy Spider-Man.
Well, but that seems like something that could, that seems like too, I don't know, I don't like that. I don't like that idea.
Well, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's how I
You would have thought, you felt like he was going for that at first?
Yeah.
Before they showed why he was actually doing it?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Because that would have been too stereotypical or evil villain. We're going to take over the world. I'm going to get all these other villains. No, it's more of a, a human thing. And it feels like something he would do. Because now that we've gotten Daredevil and all that, and we seen Kingpin, we know how much he loves Vanessa. And if he were to have a kid, he would, want them. It feels more of an understandable villain motive. There's other things that we loved about it. Some typical, some directions they went with that I wasn't expecting. So we find out that the lady who is talking about the multiverse theory is actually Liv Octavius. And she turns out to be Doc Ock in that universe. And I'm like, oh, you didn't go with Otto, you went with I believe that's his wife.
Wife or...
Well, it was either his wife or it's just the female version in that universe. I don't know.
I'm leaning more towards the female version. Otherwise, I might lean towards kind of a daughter kind of thing. But I don't
daughter would be a stretch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The daughter would be a stretch, but it was very intriguing, and
she really liked that.
I loved it. It was.
I also
it was really
loved
cool.
it.
It was a nice change of pace.
Yeah, nice change of pace instead of going with straight up Otto Octavius.
And I felt like she was a very good villain during the fight scenes and such. So
there's a lot. We could talk forever about how great this movie was. What was your favorite character out of the whole thing?
I have two characters that I kind of tuned into. First one was the main character, Miles.
Miles Morales.
Because he kind of fell into the same path as the original Peter did.
A little bit, yeah.
But
they strayed away from his comic book origin a little bit, not too heavily.
Yeah, not too heavily, but it was still kind of interesting kind of seeing him try to figure out stuff when he took it as, thinking he was going through puberty.
Yeah.
And
And which I can't remember. It's been over a year since I read those Miles Morales comics, but yeah, it's hilarious. And then what was the other one?
Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen, yes. I loved watching you learn about her origin because I thought when I first read her comics with her origins, ooh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because Peter in that universe became the Lizard.
Yes.
And
which I caught that because when she said she couldn't save her friend, I noticed, after she's like, I couldn't save my friend, I saw the scales on him. I'm just like,
well, you saw that he was a big lizard too.
Yeah, but I was just like, that was an interesting turn.
I know. That was the one thing that caught my eye when I read that comic. It's like, ooh, interesting. So Peter didn't become, not only did he not become Spider-Man, he became the Lizard in that, which I thought was very interesting.
Which I don't delve into the comics that much. He usually...
I'm the comic book person here.
He usually lets me know, so I thought that was pretty interesting to see that, and he saw my reaction.
Yeah, and it was great. It was great. But yeah, like again, same here. I loved Spider-Gwen. I liked the older Peter Parker. I thought he was pretty cool. A lot of people saying laid back. He seemed a lot like they're referencing a lot of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies. It's just so great. But yeah, Miles and Gwen were definitely standouts in the film. But yeah, it was good. And then there's one specific thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to get to some of the Twitter, and then we will give our final verdict. So the one thing that I absolutely loved about this movie, and my favorite part about this movie, was that we got the whole message of behind Spider-Man. We got a nice Stan Lee cameo that kind of really sums up that, and that was very emotional for me because we lost Stan Lee this year, and the theme of it. What are you laughing about now?
The scene.
Oh, with Stan Lee.
Like how the scene played out.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, because you just can't help but laugh and smile because when you see Stan Lee, because Stan Lee was such an amazing person, and with him and the artists that he worked with that created Spider-Man, it's just such a lasting character. But the thing that he's telling Miles buys a Spider-Man costume, and he's like, "Can I return it if it doesn't fit?" He's like, "You'll grow into it eventually." And he said no refunds, and that's probably why you're laughing. Yeah. No refunds, no returns. But that whole message of why he had a mask covering his entire face. Stanley said, I wanted the readers to feel like anybody, they could be them. You could be anybody under that mask. It could be you. It could be me. It could be the kid down the street. It could be your neighbor. Like anybody can be Spider-Man. Yeah. And you just, doing the right thing is,
an act of kindness.
An act of kindness, and it's a path to being a hero. And they nail that message really, really well. Yes. And that's what made, it's like, that is like Brooklyn Batman was saying, it is a love letter to Spider-Man history and mythology, because that's what so many people love Spider-Man. It's because they can envision themselves as Spider-Man. Yeah. And that's what I really loved about that theme. Mm-hmm. So, what did you think about the theme of the movie?
I pretty much was thinking about the same thing you were pretty much saying, because it was in regards to Stan Lee saying, anybody can be a hero. Mm-hmm. Any kind of act of kindness is heroic in its own way. Yeah. So, favorite part of the movie? Oh my goodness.
And then we will go to the Twitter stuff.
I would probably say I enjoyed the final fight.
Final fight was really good. With
all of them together. Mm-hmm. Probably was the most entertaining for me in regards to other little tidbits here and there, but probably the final fight was most entertaining for me.
Okay. My favorite part, honestly, was when Miles made his own, made the spider suit his own, and spray painting and all that, and making it his own thing.
His own kind of style. And
because I love this Miles Morales costume, and I'm so glad of how they did it, and it looked really great. Mm-hmm. And because that was the real thing that really attracted me to the Miles Morales character was the suit. That's what caught my eye, and then that's why I talked to my friend and I said, "Hey, do you have any Miles Morales comic books on from the Spider-Man Ultimate Universe? I really want to get into this." Like, "Yeah, sure, I'll let you borrow those." Mm-hmm. And because that was what caught my eye first, and then when I got into it, it's like, oh my gosh, this character is awesome. Which is funny because Spider-Man Noir, who was voiced by Nicolas Cage, the voice cast was awesome, by the way. Yes. He said, "This is a really awesome origin story," because Miles finds out that his uncle was the Prowler. Yeah. And at that point, it's like, this is a really good origin story. It's like, shh, because he's having a moment there.
Well, and then when he found the Rubik's Cube, too.
Oh, that too. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of good, fun tidbits in there. So, with all that being said, now we're going to get to some of the Twitter, and then we'll give our final verdict.
Twitter.
Do you really have to steal more from Dr. DC? We've already stolen enough from him. He's going to start charging us. So, speaking of Brooklyn Batman, here's his original thing that I found out what he thought about the film, and then I asked him a little bit more what he thought about it, and he says, Hashtag Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is amazing. It soars. The music, the story, and the animation are spectacular. It's 9 out of 10 for me. And that's a really good score. And yeah, the music was great. The story was
beautiful,
on point. The animation was, of course, like you said, spectacular.
Yes.
Definitely loved it, especially what they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much else to say about that.
Not really.
Let's go with another one. I've got this one. Would you like to read this one, and I'll give a little more info on that?
All right. This tweet is from Scott Snyder,
who is a comic book writer for DC.
Yep.
Anybody who knows.
All right, and it says, as a writer, hashtag Spiderverse is a deeply inspiring movie. The challenge of that script, introducing a new Spidey, a new universe, then 4 more new Spideys, making it all feel true, exciting, heartbreaking. That math is next level hard, and the movie was incredibly good.
Yeah, Scott Snyder is an incredible comic book writer. Does a lot of he did the New 52 Batman, the Court of Owls and all that stuff. But yeah, no, he's right. Like, that was the one thing I really loved about it too. That we are getting a new Spidey. We're going with Miles Morales, and then you're introducing all these other Spider people. And they didn't. I mean, maybe some of them could have. You could make the argument maybe they weren't all well developed, but the development that we got, I felt was enough for me to get to know him. Because I mean, also I'm a Spider-Man fan. I'm pretty familiar with each version of Spider-Man by name at least, and what their history is a little bit. But yeah, it's like it was a really good juggling act, and it felt, it didn't feel like I kind of wanted to see more of this, more of that.
Yeah,
we just got enough, and that was fine for me. So yeah, I would totally agree with Scott Snyder what he was saying about that. Because yeah, it is not easy. Heck, Spider-Man 3, that was the one big issue with Spider-Man 3. It felt like it was juggling too many characters. Though to be fair, those were some villain characters.
Yeah.
So. And then we got one last tweet. No, we got 2 more tweets. Sorry. You want to read this one?
Sure. I feel like I might butcher the name.
Just put this. Let's just go with his @. So @Ivy Wall says,
before I pass out, I just want to say hashtag Into the Spider-Verse was everything. Awesome story, characters, animation, everything. So much visual power and emotional energy, and representation matters. I related to Miles so much. Haven't felt this since Static. Incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that's the one thing I love about it. And the representation, it is important, because that's the thing that people love about Spider-Man. Anybody can be Spider-Man. It's going back to the theme we were talking about.
Exactly.
Anybody can be behind that mask, and I'm really glad that this person was able to connect with that, and he was able to connect to Miles, because honestly, I don't know how many people from the general audience know who Miles Morales is. Everybody knows who Spider-Man is. Everybody knows it's Peter Parker, but not a lot of people might not know about Miles Morales, which is why I wanted to get into the character in the first place.
And I didn't really necessarily know him until he explained it to me.
Until I told you more about Miles. So, but yeah, honestly, yeah, I'm glad that you felt like you were represented a bit. I think that's what he's going for.
Yeah.
So, and then last but not least, this is a tweet I found that really kind of hit home for me. So, this one is from Rogina @Jenna Ate. I'm sorry if I mispronounced this at all. Immediately after the movie, my 9-year-old came home and started to make his own Miles Morales costume. He was never interested in Spider-Man until he saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Representation matters. And that, to me, this is why I pulled up the tweet, because that is so awesome that her 9-year-old came home after seeing that and then started making his own Miles Morales costume, because now he feels like maybe he's like, I can be Spider-Man.
Yes.
And that's what the message is. And that's why I can see why a lot of people are saying this is the best Spider-Man movie. But yeah, I think it's awesome that now more kids are feeling like, hey, I'm being represented. Hey, I can be Spider-Man. I can be behind that mask.
I can be a hero.
I can be a hero. Exactly. So, but yeah, I'm probably going to retweet that after this. So, yeah. And now it is time for final verdicts. Crystal, would you like to give your final verdict of the film?
I still have 5 berries, correct?
Yes, you still... Yes, anybody who's not familiar with our system, each person who is reviewing, since there's 2 of us, we each get 5 berries. So, out of 5 berries, Crystal, what do you give it? And feel free to, if you would like, to explain your reasoning behind your score.
I would say probably 4.5 out of 5 berries. Because as I explained earlier, like some of the stuff, like in regards to like some of the theories with like the glitching.
You felt like the glitching was inconsistent.
Yeah.
For you.
Otherwise, not many problems.
Not many problems.
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
So you? Yeah. Well, for me, like that was another thing that kind of bugged me a little, but not heavily too much. So I honestly am going to round it up a bit, because if I were honest, I would give it maybe 4.8, but I'm going to round it up and say 5 out of 5.
Okay.
Because I loved it. It was great. It really hit that message for me of, you know, anybody can be a hero, anybody can be Spider-Man, and that's why I love the character, because so many people can connect to the character, and it's a really nice letter to what Stan Lee has accomplished, and the artist, which I believe was Steve Ditko. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I know you will if you want to. But yeah, like, it was just such a nice nod to why we love Spider-Man, why I love Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And the fact that they went with Miles and not Peter for the whole Spider-Verse thing, it was just great. I'm glad that they went with that way instead of just focusing on Peter like we've seen before. But yeah, just an amazing movie, great visuals, great characters, great voice acting. It was just perfect to me.
Oh yeah.
But so yeah, well, that sums everything up.
No.
So if you like the video, click like. If you want to see more content, subscribe. We are going to be trying to get broaden our horizons, because Sam says we may have put a little bit too many comic book movie reviews up. So we're going to try and get more reviews out next year. We're going to go movies from the past, new movies that are coming out. But we'll still do superhero movies, don't get me wrong. But we're going to try and get some more out for you next year. That's our plan. Follow us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. We didn't get too many people who messaged or say anything about this movie. I know it's still freshly kind of out. Yeah. But please don't be afraid to tweet me using hashtag AfterBerryCredits, or just tweeting me on Twitter, commenting on the video, or reaching out on Facebook to talk to me about the film. I would love to talk about it with more people. So I believe that's it, and we will catch you on the next episode of Razz My Berry Reviews. Bye.
Bye.